Welcome, everyone, to the Children's Caucus of the California Democratic Party. We are so happy to see you here tonight. Thank you for being here. You may notice on the chairs at the end of the aisle a QR code, or maybe you can aim it on there, and it just gives you some of the resources to go along with as we go through our program. We were actually hoping to, let's see, why is this? A little confused. This is someone else's screen share. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Okay. Liz, one of our communications officers doing this in the background. I thought I had the share on right here. We will introduce ourselves, the Children's Caucus officers, a little later in the program, but let me just quickly say we have Ann Crosby here, our Southern Vice Chair, and Matthew Hilliard, our Northern Vice Chair, and Amini Sanati, our Communications Director, and Tiffany Sickler, our Treasurer, and Nelson Tam, our Communications Chair. And on the Zoom, we have Abba Nagisa, our Secretary, and Liz Kane, our Communications Director, and also Corinne Sia, our Elections Chair. And we'll hear from them a little later. I just want to get us started right now. Our first order of business is to have a land acknowledgement, and we would like to ask Matthew Hillier, our Northern Vice Chair and native, to help us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Hilliard, and I come from Modoc territory. I am Modoc, and I'm very honored to be here on Kumeyaay land and Lucenio land in North County as well. Thank you so much for having us, and respect the relative that we're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have I'm muted from here. Is that a good thing? Okay, good. I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Matthew, very, very much. I just want to check that we've established quorum here. Because we're a small executive board meeting, we actually only need 5% of our total membership, which works out to 7. Can you raise your hand if you're a current?
Yeah.
We have quorum. That's good. So our first order of business is to adopt the agenda, which should be in your resources packet, and you should have been able to find from the website. Awesome. Thank you. Is there seconds?
I second.
Thank you. We can do this by acclamation. Is there any objection to adopting the agenda? Okay, our agenda is adopted. Thank you very much. And our minutes from Sacramento, those were also sent out to you and on the website. Can I hear a motion to adopt our minutes from Sacramento? Thank you. Thank you. Is there a second? I think we had from Derek. Any objections to adopting the minutes? Great. Those are adopted. And then the important piece of business we have, you may recall that we've been involved with recertification with the California Democratic Party. They've finally approved our bylaws and they need us. Thank you. It's been a little harrowing. They need us to be certain they are okay. So hopefully you saw those, or you can check them on the website. Can I entertain a motion? I think that should definitely go to Anne, who started this process in desperation.
Started it. I make a motion to reapprove our new bylaws.
For the third time, the record should show. Yes. Who would like to give us a second for that important business? Thank you. Are there any objections to finally accepting our bylaws? Then I declare them accepted. Thank you so much. And our program that you're here tonight to hear from our special guests, I actually would love to delay it for just a minute in the interest of a high schooler who has a event to get to very early in the morning. She's come to speak to us, give a 1 or 2 minute talk, introduction, and we would like to invite her up just quickly. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have a tournament tomorrow at 5 a.m. So I really appreciate this. But yeah, hi, my name is Emma Vible. I'm a 16-year-old resident of San Diego County, and I'm the lead of San Diego 350's Youth Be Oil. I'm here to speak to you all today about the most fundamental right that we can ensure for the children of our country, the right to a safe and healthy future, and a place to grow up free from toxic pollutants and natural disasters. In particular, I'm here to advocate for SB 1137, a bill mandating 3,200-foot setback zones between oil wells and communities, a minimum degree of safety to protect vulnerable communities from effects like asthma, leukemia, birth defects, and so much more. So the bill was passed by our legislator and signed into law by Governor Newsom. Then our favorite, or should I say least favorite villains, Big Oil, turned out their pockets and spent millions of dollars on a misinformation campaign that took advantage of Californians and collected enough signatures to put this bill on a referendum to be voted on in November. The campaign to keep SB 1137 is one that has been driven by grassroots activists like myself statewide, with support from city councils and organizations across the state, not to mention our legislature who passed the bill. The party should align itself with the interests of our planet, our democratic system, and our children in supporting SB 1137. You are all here today at the Children's Caucus because you care about children. Well, I'm here standing before you as a child who has grown up in California, telling you that this is where we need your protection. This is where we need you to fight for us when we cannot. Stand up against greed, stand up for our planet, stand up for our children. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And now I'd like to ask our treasurer, Tiffany Sickler, to come up and introduce our special guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So tonight, I want to thank you guys for coming out here in person and thank all of you who are joining us virtually. And I think it's really exciting we can get so many more participants with the virtual format. Tonight, I'm really excited to be able to welcome 3 guests that are speaking on the issues of child welfare and family services, as well as children's mental health. We've focused quite a bit on school districts and things like that in the last few conventions that we've been a part of. And this topic is my heart. It's my field as a child psychologist and a child welfare agency director. I'm really happy to invite Kim Giardina. She's going to be speaking. Yes, she's the child welfare director for San Diego County. We've worked really well together over the last several years, and I wish we could model other child welfare departments over Kim's like after her department, because she thinks outside the box, and I'm really excited for you to see her presentation. Shortly after that, we're going to be hearing from Mirna, Ariza, a parent who has lived experience with child welfare and also some of the challenges with Medi-Cal and health access for her daughter who is disabled. And then finally, we get to hear from Dr. Mishra, who's a child psychiatrist here in San Diego.
Tiffany, can you speak out into the microphone?
Absolutely, sorry. A child psychiatrist here in San Diego, and he's going to talk to us about systems of care and the importance of early childhood interventions. And so thank you so much for being here. Kim, I'd love to invite you up and I guess speak a little closer to them.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. That was really kind of you. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see all of you and those of you who are online. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Dr. Kimberly Giardina. I'm the director for the Child and Family Wellbeing Department with the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency. Just briefly, our department embarked on a real transformation of our child welfare system, restructuring our entire department this past July to really focus much more on our upstream prevention work. So now I oversee First 5 San Diego, all of our child abuse prevention efforts, coordination of our local child care system, along with the traditional child welfare work, so that we can really take a different approach in trying to meet families' needs long before foster care becomes an intervention that we need for our system. Is there, I don't know if somebody's bringing up the slides. Hopefully we can bring those up.
Just bring your slides that came.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So we will share to this as a preview or as the PowerPoint. I think if it's the PowerPoint, not necessarily set up to go through them one by one. It would take me a second to do that. If we just go to slide, oops, let's make that go away. Go to slideshow. I'm sorry, I can start. Are you okay with?
Yeah.
Is that appearing properly? Oops,
Yeah, looks good.
awesome, thank you.
Great. Okay,
We're not seeing that on the.
you're not seeing it on this
No.
screen though.
Let's try and share it. Maybe it didn't share, or maybe Liz was doing that from the PowerPoint. Let's see. How's that? Was that? But then, and then if I go through, you can just click it there. I
Perfect.
think that's a
Awesome.
workaround.
Okay, great. Thanks for bearing with us with the technology. So I just wanted to start giving you a little bit of a landscape of the current child welfare system in California. There are about 440,000 children that have allegations of abuse or neglect every year. We have about 18,000 children that enter foster care and currently have about 44,000 children in foster care in the state of California. Those seem like a lot, and they are big numbers. We are the largest child welfare system in the country here in California. However, we have made significant progress, and some of the trend data that you can see is actually we've had about a 21% decrease in the number of kids in foster care over the last 10 years. Really is a lot of concerted efforts in trying to make sure we're boosting resources for families ahead of those crises moments. Couple of other things about child welfare in California that's a little bit unique that most people don't know. We are one of only 9 states in the country that is a county-run child welfare system. And so each of our 58 counties in California run their child welfare system. We do have oversight by the California Department of Social Services, but there's a lot of variation between counties about what that looks like. Most other states in the country have state-run child welfare systems, and so that we function a little bit differently here in California. I wanted to highlight a few really big changes that are coming that I think are important to understand about changing the landscape of child welfare and the work that's happening. So I'm going to briefly touch on these few topic areas: the Family First Prevention Services Act, a movement from mandated reporting to community supporting. I'll talk briefly about Medi-Cal transformation, although I think you're going to get a lot more information about that from the other speakers. A new foster care rates proposal, and then our work toward building a kin-first culture. The Family First Prevention Services Act, some of you may be familiar right now. It actually passed in 2018 and began implementation in 2019. California, we got our federal prevention plan approved in 2022 and have been working on getting that implemented ever since. Really what the Family First Prevention Services Act does is allow us to use our largest source of federal dollars, which is Title 40 of the Social Security Act, historically only paid for the cost of children to actually be in foster care. So the more kids we had in foster care, the more federal funding we received. Now we can actually use that same pot of money to provide prevention services, including mental health services, substance use services, in-home parenting, and kinship navigation services, really as an effort to try to strengthen families and prevent entry into the foster care system. California is still in the beginning stages of implementation. We actually won't be able to fully implement and draw down the federal dollars until October of 2026. The reason for that, there are certain requirements around evaluation components and the data, the way we collect our data. And California won't have the system ready to collect that data until October of 2026. In the meantime, we do have some funding from the state to sort of get us through that period of time until we can draw down those federal dollars. So counties are implementing their county level prevention plans and getting started on that until we can really draw down and fully utilize those federal dollars. Another shift that has been really important and has started to really take shape at the state level is this shift from mandated reporting to community supporting. And it's coming out of some real recognition that we have some flaws with the sort of fundamental foundations of how we created our mandated reporting system. And that over time, that system has gotten quite large in terms of who is a mandated reporter, what's required and expected of them. It's not working.
Let me just stop for a moment and reshare. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, for some reason it's not working. I guess I'll stop from here. Stop, thank you. You know this better than me. For some reason it's stopped. From here or here.
I don't know, you think from here? Okay, I should let you do this. You're going to be much better.
I don't,
Um,
we'll see if that's
okay.
working. Is that better? Okay. And
It says to give her sharing access. What does that mean?
I don't know. Let's try this.
Sharing access.
Can you hear me?
Now we can see it. Okay, hold
Okay.
on.
Hey, I got a thumbs up.
Oh,
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you, Robin. Okay. So as we've really started to look at some of the data and some of the challenges with mandated reporting, the state of California has actually created a task force to really take a look at making some changes to our mandated reporting laws in California. This came out of a movement from our citizen review panels. So we have 3 citizen review panels in California. Every state actually has 3. That is made up of citizens who review child welfare cases, child welfare policy, and make recommendations for changes. And so the recommendations around making some shifts to mandated reporting came from the citizen review panels. And now there is a task force really looking at highlighting those recommendations. Some changes have already been implemented. In 2022, there was a piece of legislation that actually changed the definition of general neglect to clarify and really specify that just because a family is experiencing poverty or homelessness does not mean that that equates to general neglect of their children. And so that change has already gone into effect. Sorry, I got like an error on the screen.
She's getting an error.
We'll see.
Guess it wouldn't be a Zoom meeting without some tech issues, right?
Okay, we'll see. So we are, yes, we are excited about this change and moving forward with that. The next piece I'll just briefly cover is around Medi-Cal transformation. You may have also heard it called CalAIM, really the overhaul of Medi-Cal. And the reason this is important for children in the foster care system is because they are one of the populations of focus that are automatically eligible for enhanced care management core services. So that means that our youth are going to be able to access the enhanced care management core services. We are working very hard throughout the state to look at how we maximize the use of ECM for youth in foster care. One of the challenges that we have is that the majority of counties actually have their children in foster care on fee-for-service Medi-Cal, not in Medi-Cal managed care. And the reason for that is historically, because our kids sort of move around a lot, it's been easier to keep them on fee-for-service rather than in a managed care plan where then when they move, maybe they have to change a whole network of providers and those providers aren't providing the same type of care that that child might need. So one of the big lifts right now that many counties are working on it's figuring out which kids need to be in managed care, which ones can stay on fee-for-service, what's the process of getting them enrolled in managed care, who decides that, the foster parent, the birth parent, you know, it's not quite so simple as one might think. So there is a lot of benefit, we think, and so really it will be important, I think, for us to figure out how to really utilize the enhanced care management services for our kids in foster care. I think the level of care coordination that they're going to receive, given the high level of needs that we know most youth in foster care have, is going to be really valuable for them to access enhanced care management. Oh, one of the very, very new components happening in child welfare in California is a new foster care rates proposal that the Department of Social Services put out in the January governor's proposed budget. There have been a few changes that we saw recently in the May revision of the budget, but statutorily, we have to have a new foster care rates proposal in place by January 2025. We've been operating under a sort of an interim foster care rates structure. The new rates proposal has some very exciting components. One, the rate is based on the child's needs, not the facility they're living in. So historically, if you were in a foster home, you got this much money. If you were in a residential setting, you got a different amount of money, and it was based on the setting the child was placed in. Now, it's going to be based on the needs of that child. We use the Child and Adolescent Needs and Strength tool to screen every child that comes into foster care. Based on where they score on that CANS tool, we'll put the child into a tier. Whatever tier that is will determine what rate that child receives or that caregiver receives to meet the needs of that child. So that means I might have a child in tier 3 who's living with grandma, and grandma can still get that highest rate to help meet the needs of that child, which is fantastic, right? It's really a child-centered approach. There's also some new components to the rate that we've never had before. So there's a strengths building component. That means that every child is going to get a certain amount of money every month to go toward any pro-social extracurricular activities that our youth in care want to do. This right now is incredibly inconsistent because there isn't a funding source for those activities. So as many counties have created their own funding, but it's not consistent throughout the state. It doesn't function the same way. It's not the same amount of money per child. So this means our kids will get to be involved in music lessons or sports teams. They can maybe go on those extra field trips. They can just go to the movies with their friends like normal kids, right? And so we are really excited about this opportunity to create more sense of normalcy for youth in foster care. We also know that so many of those pro-social activities equally serve to support the positive mental health of our youth, just as much as traditional mental health treatments can. And so I think that that's another really positive component. There's also an immediate needs component that will help children in the tier 2 or tier 3 so that we can bring in any extra services or supports to that home that will really help stabilize that placement setting for that child. So there are a lot of things to be really excited about this proposal. And as always, there are usually some things that are not so great that we are also trying to work on. Some of the proposals around the rates don't support our current agencies who provide foster care or group care. And even though we have really significantly reduced the number of youth that are in what are called STRTPs, short-term residential therapeutic programs, we do still have youth with very complex, very significant needs who really cannot function in a home setting. And that is few, very few children. However, we do have those. And so the new rates proposal really doesn't support our STRTPs and even our foster family agencies at the level that they need to be in order to provide care for children. So we're working on that. We are in lots of conversations with the Department of Social Services. We've already gotten some changes made that are very positive. So we are hopeful we can work through some of those pieces because overall, I think the philosophy behind this new rates proposal is really positive for kids and we want to make that work. And then lastly, I will just share a little bit about the work we're doing around kin first culture. This is a big push from the Department of Social Services. And, you know, child welfare, I think, has always had a focus on placing children with relatives. We know the research is super clear. When kids are placed with relatives, they just do better. And we have not always had the same level of support for relative caregivers that they might need to take on youth in foster care. And so we are investing a lot of resources both in doing a better job of finding relatives, as well as doing a better job then of supporting those relatives. So the state has actually established what's called the Center for Excellence to provide training and technical assistance to counties, as well as funding to help us implement this kin first culture. And it's really been exciting to see our numbers here just locally in San Diego. We went from about 29% of kids being placed with relatives. We're up to about 44% right now. So that has really been incredible. So if you're interested in becoming a little bit more involved, I have a few ways in here that you can do that. We always need people to support our kids in foster care, whether it's from advocating around legislation that's going to positively impact the lives of our youth, becoming a mentor, becoming a foster parent yourselves. We really would encourage that. I also, the PowerPoint is going to be shared. And so at the end, I did include some links to some helpful resources if you're interested in learning more. Yeah. Yeah.
saw a couple on television, but I don't see any.
Yeah, there actually are quite a few nowadays. So foster care has been extended up to the age of 21. So children can remain in foster care. They get to choose whether or not they stay in from 18 to 21. And they can actually enter and leave as many times as they want before their 21st birthday. Most kids do opt to stay in. So they get a monthly stipend that goes along with it. They get housing resources. They keep their social worker. Then after the age of 21, there are an additional range of housing and case management services. They're no longer formally in foster care, but they can access those services up until the age of 24. So we do try to really support youth as they exit. Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
Foster kids at a higher risk of human trafficking.
Correct.
Because I have a nonprofit following human trafficking.
Can we,
Oh, everybody,
I have a-
he's coming right behind you.
Thank you. So foster kids are at a higher risk of becoming victims of human trafficking. What are we doing to prevent that? Because I know an attorney who was a deputy, sorry, I forgot the title, but she was in the Attorney General's office and she used to defend foster kids. And she said, usually traffickers are waiting outside the foster homes. What are we doing to prevent that?
Yeah, so that is a great question. We have worked really hard over the last 10 years to change some legislation that allows us to intervene more effectively. And part of that is just, it is clearly now under the jurisdiction of child welfare and no longer law enforcement to work with children who have been exposed to human trafficking. So any of the resources that we have are now available to them. We also are required to screen for the risk of human trafficking every child on every investigation that we do that's 12 and older, regardless of what the allegations were on that, so that we're getting that screening done very early and trying to intervene. Different counties have implemented different strategies. Here in San Diego, we have 2 drop-in centers for victims of human trafficking, one centrally located and one in our North County. We also have a CSEC response team. So if law enforcement does encounter a youth on the street, we actually have one of our community-based providers along with my staff and a peer advocate who will respond immediately, jointly, and meet law enforcement there so that we can try to engage the youth in services right there in that sort of moment. It's kind of when we have the best opportunity to do that. So we are trying to get much better at addressing it and addressing it much earlier. We also have mandates in schools now around education around human trafficking. So 7th, 9th, and 11th grade has mandated human trafficking education built into the sexual health education component of schools. Yes, it is.
Yes. Thank you so much, Pam. You never disappoint. That was amazing. I've been in this field for almost 30 years and I learned some new things in your presentation. So thank you so much. Next, I would like to invite up Mirna, Ariza. I am so proud to have Mirna here. She and I have known each other for about 17 years. I'm excited for you to hear her story of how she got to where she is today. She's been working with Koinonia Family Services for 17 years, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story today. Today, I will share my personal experience with child welfare, what it is to be a parent of a child with special needs, and now how my life is as a service provider. So a little history. I've been in San Diego for about 10 years. And in the early 1990s, my family came involved with child welfare. At the time, I was in my early 20s. I was a young mom, single mom with 2 kids. And my children were removed due to drugs. It took about, I think I was going to get emotional. It took about 2 years for me to get my children back. Child welfare 30 years ago is definitely not what it is today. I had really no resources, no support. Really was given a checklist and said, get these things done, see you in 6 months. So that was pretty challenging. Fortunately, I was able to get sober and get my kids back. Um, uh, really grateful for Kim, directors like her who are really changing the welfare system, and for working with an agency like Koinonia Family Services, who the goal is to provide support for these families, and reunification is a top priority. So thank you, Kim. Now, fast forward 10 years later, I gave birth to a special needs baby girl. And without the programs that I was provided, like Medi-Cal, my daughter would not be able to get the treatment and the services that she needed. She was born very premature. I had her at 24 weeks, 1 pound, 1 ounce. And so was in the NICU for about 4 months before she was able to come home. I remember getting home and it wasn't even 24 hours and I got a call from the hospital saying, hey, how are we going to resolve this bill? You have a $750,000 bill that needs to be resolved due to all of the treatment that my daughter received. Thankfully, through programs like Medi-Cal and CalAIM, my daughter was able to receive the services that the medical services she needed, and even moving on services like the regional center to help her be as successful as she can be today at 20 years old. Now today, my life is very different. As Tiffany stated, I have been with Koinonia for about 17 years now, and I am on the other side of the spectrum now. I am helping families who are coming in through child welfare, helping them reunify back with their parents, and recently now get to be part of this amazing program that CalAIM has started, which is enhanced care management, where we get to help not just children, but families as a whole, and help these families get them the needs and resources that they need in hopes to prevent them coming through the child welfare system. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story. Thank you.
Questions for Mirna? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just one question for the last speaker, the question about 20% decrease of children in foster care, how much of that dip is connected to the birth decline, which we are in year 16 of? This or that?
Yeah, great question. The rate of decrease of the number of kids in foster care is happening faster than the decline of the birth rate. So we do know some of it is just because we have fewer children overall, but really the efforts that we have made, I think, toward prevention work are showing that they're paying off.
Tamara, what has been the most rewarding part of your work?
I would say being able to help families like myself. I have seen families come in and just see the struggle in trying to get their kids back. And then at the end of this reunification process, having this family be preserved, I think it's the most rewarding. Preserving families. Don't give up on families. I would say that's it's worth it. It's so worth it.
Could you wait for the mic? Wait for the mic.
She's worried about your bills.
How, how were you able to resolve the $740,000 bill from the hospital?
Thanks, Matthew.
It was through Medi-Cal. Because of programs like Medi-Cal, my daughter was able to receive the services that she needed.
Is there integration with mental health that is, that you're working with your agency?
I think this question is a great segue to our next speaker as well. Yes, there is a whole bunch of integration between behavioral health and child welfare. We actually say we're married now. There is quite a bit of legislation that requires all of us to work together, and there are some new programs that are going to happen. BH Connect is a new program where we're actually going to be doing joint home visits at the point that we know we're opening a case, so that the mental health worker and the child welfare worker go together to do the assessment of that family and determine the case plan at the very same time. So it's getting better and better.
How can we volunteer? Want to see her.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. And our next guest is Dr. Guarav Mishra. And as I mentioned before, he's a pediatric psychiatrist with San Ysidro Health, and I'm really excited to hear what you have to share with us tonight. Thank you.
I was very excited to talk about the things I want to talk about, but hearing the first two speakers has been really exciting because Dr. Giardina and Mirna, I think you both are pieces of the puzzle that, like, I'm part of that puzzle too on the mental health piece, but hearing about the changes, upcoming changes in the child welfare system is really exciting. What I wanted to talk about is really systems of care in which kids and children and adolescents in California really get care, really get mental health care. Okay, let me actually start with introducing myself. So I'm Guarav Mishra. I'm an adult and child psychiatrist. I work for San Diego Health, which is a large federally qualified health center here in San Diego. We serve about 160,000 patients in San Diego County, in East and South San Diego County. And about 30% of our patients are kids. And my role is, along with being a psychiatrist, is also I am the chief behavioral health officer, so I oversee all of our behavioral health addiction medicine services, designing systems of care and like sort of expanding our programs. That's my role. I spent about last 10 years, right from training, working about a mile from the border. So I worked about 5 years in Imperial County. Now, the last 5 years, I've been here in San Diego County. And there have been times I have about 50 kids in the foster system who are just like my own patients, like as a child psychiatrist. So I've had a lot of interaction with, obviously, parents, biological parents, foster parents, social workers, and the system in general, to see what works, what doesn't work, and what can all of us do together to make it better. One of the key things, also, this is Mental Health Awareness Month in May, so this is a great time to talk about this. So I think community health centers are really one of the, I think, most important places kids get care today. Federally qualified health centers especially serve millions of patients across the county, across California, and they do it in a way that's very close to home. Community health centers are within our communities. They are very close to the patient, where the patients live. Most of the staff actually belong to the community they serve. That's really unique, something unique about community health centers. So I think being able to enhance and support community health centers to be able to do that work better goes a long way in serving the populations we're talking about here. So just a little bit about the organization I work with. So we are about a 54-year-old organization. This was formed a few miles from the US-Mexico border, where 7 moms from the community who did not have care for the kids and families in that region went to UCSD. They found a professor who was willing to sort of find some funding, and they created a health center out of a home that was in the community. And today, this organization has 50 clinics spread out in the county, and it serves 160,000 patients. So really, it is really a grassroots effort, and you see that in a lot of the community health centers that are in the communities, that are in all over the state. Okay.
If you just say, the next slide, Liz is sharing these on
Okay.
hers. I don't know why this is happening. And yeah, it's us to
Please go.
stop sharing on streaming. I don't know.
It's okay. So, few things we've done actually, as sort of part of innovative program building at community health centers is we have obviously collaboration with the pediatrics teams. We have child and adolescent psychiatry. But this year, actually, we've just launched our first infant and early childhood mental health program, where our area of focus is autism and kids in the foster system, just because the need for these families and kids is so high that we are really trying to build a support system for the kids there in our community. But also the work is really difficult. So building that support system for the clinicians and the clinical team is also equally important so that they can keep doing the work long-term. Another sort of unique opportunity and location where we were able to do some work for kids was in 2021, we had about 3,500 kids, unaccompanied minors, housed here in San Diego. So our organization was tasked with overseeing mental health effort for all of these kids. So if you look on the surface, you think about 3,500 kids, how are we going to get them all therapy? How are we going to get them all psychiatry? But we learned really quickly and modified our model of care. So we started with, this is actually in the convention center. There's like thousands of kids housed in the convention center. And we started with thinking, okay, how do we do this in addition to all the work we're already doing in our clinic every day? We started doing some one-on-one sessions, but we quickly realized there's no way we can get to 3,500 kids this way. So we switched to doing groups. And in a few days, we changed our model to have community health workers who are trained by our clinical team to do groups. We were doing 4 groups a day with 30 kids each. We're getting to over 100 kids a day and 7 days a week. So we're reaching 800 kids a week in the form of group. And that was really a great format to meet the need of the community. So this is just to illustrate that sometimes we think really too in the box about how do you do things for our community? How do you do things for the families? You really do need to think differently than traditional therapy and psychiatry being the only option. They're really important options for kids who need it, but they're not the only option. One of the things learning from that, which we're doing now in the community health, in our FQHC, is we are actually training our community health workers in something called a lay counselor academy, which allows us to, our lay counselors, which are not licensed clinicians, are starting groups and are actually trying to engage with the families within a couple of weeks of a referral from primary care team, which makes a difference. If you think about it, the reality of a wait time for most kids today is a few months at the minimum to get mental health care. If you change that to get them care quickly within a few weeks, it really makes a difference in how they're doing overall long-term. I think the last piece I want to talk about, pretty critical, is the school-based health centers, right? So we have a few different schools that we interact with, and schools are really a unique place to offer care, just because I think it offers a level of immediate access, a level of privacy that kids like. And we've also done things like trying to engage them in groups and different sort of innovative treatments, like strategies, like quick access to a community health worker, not always waiting for that traditional one-on-one therapy session, which is important, but I think there are many ways to meet needs of kids at different levels. I think that's one of the slides I don't think I can share, but I think the puzzle of what a kid needs to do well is really complex. I think they need their parents, they need their pediatrician, they need their therapist, potentially a psychiatrist, they have their teacher. They have a lot of people in their corner. And most of our systems are not set up to do that collaborative work easily. And that's what I think that's lacking. And I would say that as funding strategies are thought about, one of the important pieces would be to really enable all of these different stakeholders to really engage with each other well, so you can support the child and the family really well. And that's, when you talk about funding streams and grants, which we have many, but none of them really look at this huge gap that exists in our systems. And I think that's where effort is needed long-term to be able to meet the need of the community. I had some slides about accessing emergency services. Basically in San Diego County, at least, we have both the crisis and access line, where you can actually call and 24/7. You can get connected to services at any point, like, and their services right from a detox to basic inpatient services or outpatient services. There's also a suicide hotline, which is 988, which is now being popularized. We are using it really pretty often, actually telling our patients to actually feed it into their phones. And this on the right is just a sample of a text I sent to that number, and immediately you can get connected to somebody who can support you. And you can text them, you can call them, you can do a text web-based chat. There's many ways to access that care. San Diego County also has mobile crisis response teams and psychiatric emergency response teams, which are different, which obviously I think vary by county across the state, but these are just different ways of accessing care. I would say the basic thing is encourage the parents to talk to the child, talk to the school, and get support for yourself and the child. And it is possible to do it, but you have to take that first step. So that's all I want to talk about. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes.
There is.
So,
Wait for the mic.
Wait for the mic.
We're gonna wait for the mic so the Zoom can hear the question.
So the question, I have 3 questions. So how many unaccompanied minors did you
Right.
say you had as clients? And the percentage of the total? You also mentioned that your clients are 30% adolescent, but you're a child psychiatrist. So what are the 70?
So, yeah, so,
The 70%, and how young are the patients?
So the unaccompanied minors, I was talking about in 2021, where there was a large number of minors came across the border who were unaccompanied. At that time, we had 3,500 kids who were housed in San Diego Convention Center. And this was part of the Office of Refugee Resettlement and Agency of Children and Family, and all of these different agencies that were working together. And so our job was to really, and most kids were there about, I would say, between 1 to 4 months on average at that location before they got reunified with families. Our role was to really provide care for the kids while they were there. And what additionally we did is sort of the kids who were really high need, we were assessing them and providing recommendations to families once they got reunited with families. There are several agencies in San Diego County which serve that population. So there is still an ongoing, there are still some kids who are in that category, which are unaccompanied minors that are at any point are in San Diego, in group homes, under the custody of Office of Refugee Resettlement, which occasionally we see in our clinics also.
There's a question in the chat is, what is the relationship between you and behavioral health services from the county?
I'll just answer the question. So you said 30%, right? So I think what I was saying is our health center serves about 160,000 patients, of which 30% are under 18. I as a child, so I'm a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. I see all ages actually. So I see some kids and some adults, and also, I see a mix. So I think the relationship, it's interesting, the relationship between county and the community health services, because there is a default sort of fragmentation in our system of care, which we know exists, and we are always trying to bridge it. So I think what happens is the county is responsible for the kids who are the most severely ill, as for the adults, and the community health centers see the kids who are not that severely ill, but that line is very blurred. And that's where the problems are, and that communication just needs to keep getting better. But there is a relationship. We serve the same kids, but we're not always synchronized. That can for sure improve. Yeah.
Hi, is this on?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Couldn't tell. First of all, as a San Diegan, I want to thank you all so much for what you do. And as a mother, knowing about the convention center was devastating. The number of sleepless nights where we were worried about those children and didn't know what to do. So the fear is oh my God, please, Lord, let it not happen, that we could end up in a situation like that again. Is there anything a layperson can do other than becoming a foster parent or supporting, but in a big situation like that where we could be of support? Because I think there were a lot of people in the community who just didn't know what they could do.
I think, yes, I think there's a lot can be done because when we first that situation was evolving and we went to the convention center, staffing is a problem, a real problem in healthcare. So we had, it's other than mental health services, we also had people who were just overseeing and ensuring kids are safe every day. A therapist is not with them. So we had people who were just staffing and making sure kids are safe in their pods, right? And they did not have any mental health training, the people who were overseeing that. It's not anybody's fault. It's just that the need was so high in that moment. And I'll give you an example. Something we saw kids were just passing out from anxiety, right? It's a scary thing, but I'll tell you, in a pod of 50 kids, sometimes 7 kids would pass out in the night. And a lot of it is anxiety is sort of, it is like contagious a little bit, so we saw like every morning we had like 20 kids brought to the, Rady had an ED within the setting for medical, and we had a mental health. We would get like 20, 30 kids referred every night for this. And then we realized, okay, we have to de-escalate a lot of this early. So one thing we did is actually did some training for the staff who are overseeing them in the pods, who could begin de-escalating early. So I think what community can do is really get educated. There's a lot of work that can be done with some training. You don't have to have a lot of training to do the kind of work that's needed, because there are kids who need many different kinds of things. There's some kids who just need supportive listening, and that is sufficient for them. And there's some kids who are very severely ill. They need to see a psychiatrist and a therapist one-on-one regularly, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a huge spectrum of what is needed. If you build the right supports for people who have maybe lesser experience, but want to do the work, then you can actually do a lot more than you can do with just me as a psychiatrist showing up there. I can only see one kid at a time, right? So, but if I have like 4 people who are community health workers, they're not licensed clinicians, but with the right support of supervision from a clinician and just input and training, they can do so much more than I can do by myself, right? So I think it's really important how we think about, there's several actually federal grants right now looking at how to educate and build up programs who are trying to address this. Because I assure you something like this could happen, but we do have the bandwidth and the capacity, resources and money. There's a lot of money in the US which can do things, so it's not just about money though, there is actually will to do it, right? So I think it is a solvable issue if it does arise. Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yes. Thank you.
I just want to thank all of our guests for presenting. This has been an awesome, robust presentation, and we're going to be moving on. I think our next speaker actually is joining us via Zoom, correct? Okay, so I'm going to pass it on over to our chair.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that those are amazing stories, and I'm having a hard time keeping tears of awesome unbelievableness out of my eyes. Our next scheduled piece of the agenda is to have a memoriam talk about Delaine Eastin. Before we turn to that, we have a special guest on Zoom from our Lieutenant Governor, and I think she has a schedule which makes it difficult to wait until the end of the program. So we'd like to ask her on here, if it's possible, to spotlight her. There we go. Do we, oh, good. We see it here too.
She's on the big screen here, so we see her.
Yes, and are you seeing her on Zoom also there?
Hi, is that you, Sarah?
Yes, thank you very much.
Hear us, Lieutenant Governor, but they can hear you. Go ahead.
Well, first, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was listening to the last presentation, and I just want to thank the speaker for all of his work with the unaccompanied minors. When I was a U.S. ambassador, I had the opportunity to be out in some of the places where we have international efforts to help support refugees. And it is honestly the most heartbreaking thing in the world to see a child with no place to go and with no parents, and all of the dangers that those children face. So helping support them, in particular with mental health, is just, it's God's work. So thank you to everyone who's presenting on that. I'm a mom, and so I wanted just to come here and say thank you to all of you who continue to elevate the important issue of our kids. Mental health, no question about it, has become one of the biggest issues that we have. We have issues now escalating surrounding accidental deaths from fentanyl, as well as addiction issues. We are constantly pushing back against oil companies and doing everything we can so that our kids can have clean air and clean water. And of course, healthcare in general. As we know as parents, when your child is sick, there's just nothing more important than that. But I want to just touch on the issue of education very briefly, because I think some of you know the Lieutenant Governor sits on the boards of the UC, the CSU, and now, since I was elected, we ran a bill, the Community College Board of Trustees. So I'm the only person to sit on all three boards. And of course, it's that pipeline of our young people coming up through our educational system. And two things I want to highlight, I'm sure you know, but just to recognize the extraordinary leadership of the governor with the support of the legislature on transitional kindergarten. We are phasing in another year of school for our kids, and it's amazing because, of course, we know from 0 to 5 is critical time for kids in their learning. We are also, and I think this is just such a great thing, again, for everybody who had to deal with school lunches, we are now offering breakfast and lunch for all of our students. It takes away the stigma of having to sign up for it. And most of our school districts have a preponderance of students who qualify as it is. So it's just two wonderful things that I think are really worth celebrating. And I also want to just highlight how important it is for our students to be ready when it is time for them to go on to higher education, if that's what they seek to do. And here again, though there is lots of work to be done, we have a success story because we have about 2.7 million students enrolled in public higher education in the state of California. And almost 40% are the first in their family to go to college. So these are some of the things that I've been out there working on. I tell you, as a mom, all of this comes in such focus. My boys are in college now themselves, and I feel like I have this opportunity the same way that, you know, my husband and I are helping our boys figure out what classes to take, what major, what summer jobs, that kind of thing, that for our public higher education, the more accessible, affordable, and frankly, user-friendly it is to help our kids be able to look forward if they choose to go to a community college for a certificate or to go to a UC, a four-year university, that they can see that pathway stretch out ahead of them. So again, you know, I became a mom late. I was 35 when I had my first, 36. I was a satisfied customer. I had one more when I was 36. The experience has made me feel like every child out there needs adults who care about them and who can either as whatever it is that compels them to want to help our kids. There's just never enough. So again, Sarah, thank you for letting me say a few words, and I hope everyone has a great e-board and see you out there on the campaign trail. Everything is at stake in November. Thanks, Sarah.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Lady Kounalakis. Thank you.
And now let me just take one moment to try and have, let's see, a technical break. I am not seeing what I need here. Want to find my resources. Well, we will next be hearing from a former chair of the Children's Caucus, who will be sharing some information about the history of the Children's Caucus. Not sure why I can't get this to work.
We got it. We got it.
Okay, so I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Chessin. If I could figure out, I would show our pictures of the former Superintendent of Public Instruction, Delaine Eastin. He, a good friend of Mr. Chessin, he's going to tell us about the history of the caucus and give a little memorial about former Superintendent Eastin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. One correction, I was never chair of the caucus. I was the founder of the caucus, but never the chair. There's a reason for that, which I'll get into. I'm going to talk basically about the history of the Children's Caucus, how it got started, why it got started, and Delaine Eastin's important role in the creation of the Children's Caucus. So in the late 1980s or early 1990s, can't remember exactly when, but I had several friends of mine voluntarily disclosed to me that they were adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. There was nothing in our platform about that. So I worked on getting language into the platform about supporting the prevention, detection, and treatment of child abuse. And that happened, I think, in 1992. Then in February of 1993, Assemblymember Eastin, she was then an assembly member, gave a talk where I worked on the state of education in California and basically how awful it was. Fast forward a little bit, a couple months later at the June 1993 convention, I was looking to see what caucus I should go to. I'm a straight white male. I'm not a union member. None of the caucus really spoke to me. I was interested in children's issues, and I realized that there was no caucus that focused on children's issues. So after the convention, I contacted Delaine, and I met with her in August of 1993 about the idea of what I was then calling a kids caucus. She liked the idea and gave me a list of people to contact. I told her that I was a nobody. Nobody knows me in the party. I'm just a member of a state central committee, and I would need her help. And she said that she would help. So I got a small group of people together and arranged for a room at the April 1994 convention. And I asked Delaine to write a letter of support, asking people to support the Kids Caucus. So in early April, I sent a letter to all 3,000 state central committee members announcing that there'd be an organizational meeting of a Kids Caucus at the April convention. And on the reverse, I put that letter from Delaine on her stationery, asking people to support the formation of a Kids Caucus. Over 200 people responded to sign up. So at that April 15th convention, we had our kickoff meeting. Delaine gave a very rousing speech. There were about 75 to 100 people who attended. We decided to change the name to the Children's Caucus, and the demographic that we had in terms of qualifying for the demographic identity that the party rules require was basically anyone who had been a child. So then we submitted our certification request to the Rules Committee. They didn't like that a demographic, because that didn't separate us from anybody else. So we decided that the demographic would be parents and legal guardians of children. And that's what's currently in the Children's Caucus bylaws. We also wanted to have children as members, and the Rules Committee didn't like that, so we dropped that. We were also getting some opposition from the California Teachers Association, at least from 2 members of the CTA who are active with the state party, who thought that we were encroaching on their turf. And I had to enlist the help of my state senator, John Vasconcellos, to defuse their opposition. So we had a meeting in January 1995 where we changed the demographic. We were still getting resistance from the Rules Committee. So we submitted a resolution to the Resolutions Committee that it should be the policy of the Democratic Party that there shall be a Children's Caucus. They rejected it, so we had to collect signatures on the floor. We collected the required signatures on the floor of the April 1995 convention and got it considered at the floor, and it passed at the convention. So then we were scheduled for certification at the February 1996 Eboard meeting. I contacted Delaine and I said, the Rules Committee is going to be considering us, and then it'll probably get pulled from their report and debated on the floor of the Executive Board meeting. So can you attend? And she said she could attend either Saturday or Sunday, but not both, which would be more important. And I said, well, if you could send a letter to the Rules Committee and could be there in person on Sunday, I think that would be most important. So she agreed to write a letter to the Rules Committee, and I'd like to read that letter to you, if I may. It's dated February 3rd, 1996. So just prior to the E-Board meeting. Dear members of the Rules Committee, my friends, I wish I could be here in person to speak to you today. I will be present tomorrow to address the entire Executive Board. I want to convey to you my strong support of the Children's Caucus as a part of the California Democratic Party. Children are under attack in California. Even as Hillary Clinton travels the country promoting her book, It Takes a Village, whose title refers to the concept that we are all responsible for the welfare of each child, the Republican-dominated Assembly is pushing legislation that would return corporal punishment to the classroom and allow juveniles to be paddled in court. Children are our future, and it has never been clearer that their needs must have a stronger voice in the political process. The California Democratic Party recognized this last April by strongly supporting the concept of the Children's Caucus as a matter of policy. Today, you have the opportunity to advance the implementation of this policy by recommending the certification of the Children's Caucus. While I am doing the best I can for the children of California, I cannot do it by myself. Therefore, I urge you to support the Children's Caucus and ask for your aye vote. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, Delaine Eastin. So the Rules Committee did vote to recommend certification of the Children's Caucus, and it went as part of their report on Sunday. A friend of mine told me that she'd been asked that it was going to get pulled from the report as a separate item, and she'd been asked to make a motion to table it. Now, as most of you know, a motion to table is not debatable, but a motion to postpone is. I asked her to change it to a motion to postpone so that Delaine could speak on that motion to postpone. She agreed to do that. So she got the Rules Committee gave their report. Certification of the Children's Caucus got pulled from their report as a separate item. My friend made a motion to postpone that motion. Gary Shea was chairing the meeting at that time because Bill Press, who had opposed the formation of the caucus, had left the convention at that point. So Gary was chairing and asked for speakers. And Delaine came up to the microphone on the floor of the E-Board to speak. And Gary said, Madam Superintendent, because she'd been elected Superintendent of Public Instruction by then, would you like to speak from the podium? And Delaine came up to the podium. And she gave a very impassioned speech in favor of basically repeating many of the points in that letter of why there needed to be a Children's Caucus and why the E-Board should approve the certification of the Children's Caucus. And other people got up to speak as well. A friend of mine told me to call off my people because there'd been enough speakers in favor of the Children's Caucus. And I don't remember what the vote was. I'm sure it was not unanimous, but it was an overwhelming vote to certify the Children's Caucus. But the Children's Caucus wouldn't exist unless it would not exist without the support that Delaine Eastin gave it. And I was very saddened when I learned that she had passed. And so I hope that we can adjourn this evening in her memory and honor her contribution to the Children's Caucus. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. Absolutely. We will adjourn in her memory, as I know many county committees and the state committee across the state have done and will do. Thank you for your memories too, Mr. Chessin. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right, so now we will just turn to some more caucus activities with that introduction of or remembrance of where we came from
let's turn quickly to where we will go. I think hopefully everybody is on our mailing list and you've received our newsletter. You know the information about our recertification that we passed. Hopefully on Sunday, we will be recertified. We now have a new dues structure, which you may have noticed, where it's possible to contribute at a higher than our standard level if you wish. Let me just stop the share here. And I hope you will consider that for our expenses here for these conferences are high, and we appreciate your support toward that end. You'll also find on our website a year-end report of what we have been doing this year. You will remember that we have a roadshow that we gave at our last meeting and have been taking around to central committees across the state. We are all very concerned with what's happening at school boards and in the races for school boards, these nonpartisan down ballot races, but also, as the Lieutenant Governor was talking about, our higher learning institutions are also seeing the same sorts of incursions moving there. So this is something very important to keep in mind. And toward that end of searching for and training school board candidates, our vice chair, we're going to turn now to reports from our officers, and we'll start with our Southern Vice Chair, Ann, who has words to say about that.
Hello. So we've been partnering with different organizations to put together these trainings for people who are running for a school board to support them. Frequently, they know a lot about the community. They know a lot about serving on school board, but they know nothing about politics. So it gives us an opportunity to give that information. We have one coming up on June 15th. It is a Zoom meeting, so it's available to everyone across the state. So please, if you are running for school board, if you know somebody who's thinking about running for school board, we're doing it in conjunction with the Dem Ed Alliance in San Diego, the San Diego County's Club of the Year. So you can look on, there will be announcements that'll go out from the Children's Caucus and the Dem Ed Alliance. And if, in addition, if you know of anybody who's running for a down ballot race, water board, whatever that might be, they will also gain a lot from this training. It really digs into some of the things that are sort of high level for anyone who's in politics. But if you're new to politics and you don't know anything about how to run a campaign, we give you a lot of information, and we're always available. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And now let's hear it from our Northern California Vice Chair, Matthew Hilliard.
So thank you so much. I have a really great email with all of our updates that's going to go out very soon. And we have a lot of things going on around the counties. We've been going around to the DCC meetings and really hearing about the attacks at the school board meetings that are happening in urban areas and suburban areas. And there's a lot of really good people doing really good work. And it's important to highlight them. So just check that email and it'll have all that information for you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure there's a lot more. I know Matthew's been telling me about the great things he's been doing, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. And now we can hear from our treasurer, Tiffany Sickler. Thank you.
Good evening. I don't have a whole lot to report. We have about $3,000 in our account. But now that I have this time, we heard from Kim Giardina talking about foster care rates. And I do want to put a plea out to anybody who might be watching. There's two critical issues that are being considered during the May revise. And one of them is the foster care rates proposal, which she was sharing, which is proposing a 17% cut to the STRTP providers. So those are those short-term residential treatment programs for youth. We were talking about the good side of it, of all of the special needs funds that goes to cover camp and specialized treatments and things like that. Those things are provided to the youth right now, and they're redirecting the funding from the agencies that provide it to the child directly. So we will no longer have the funding to provide those things, and the kids will be able to determine how they want to spend that money. So that can be critical for those short-term residential treatment programs. The other piece is what's called bridge funding. Right now, the foster family agencies that recruit and approve and assess and support the families that are caring for these high needs kids, they were granted a 1-year bridge funding to carry the agencies over until the permanent rates came into play. Well, they extended the permanent rates now to July of 2026, and they did not extend the bridge funding. So essentially, these foster family agencies are looking at an 8.8% rate cut come July 1st of this year, if that goes through. The California Alliance for Children and Family Services did put forward a proposal to extend that bridge funding. It's critical. There's agencies like Kounalakis that are going to be shutting their doors because they cannot stretch it any farther. So if you have any interest in that, please, I can give you more information on it. We also have information out on our Children's Caucus table out front. If you're interested in that, we've got some QR codes that can direct you right to the information. But what we've been asking people to do is to please call your legislators, call your assemblymen, call your senators, and speak with their legislative assistants and ask them to please reconsider this 8.8% cut, and also reevaluate the foster care rate proposal. It looks great, but there definitely needs to be some tweaks before it's a positive outcome for everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. On our Zoom, we have our secretary who is taking notes in the background, and we would like to introduce Abba. There she is.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Abba. I am a teacher, and one of the things that I'm really passionate about, all things affecting TK 12, actually 16 youth. And one of the things I'm really working on right now is career technical education. A lot of our youth are not going to college, and we need to make certain that they are prepared for the workforce if they're not going to college. And we can't wait for it to start in high school. This is something that needs to start in elementary school. So our students start thinking about what it is that they want to do and start exploring the different careers, so that by the time they get to high school, they really have a more better grasp of what they want to do, so that we can direct them in the correct area. So that's one of the things I'm really working on right now, career technical education. You'll hear me speak a lot about that, but I think it's really important to ensure that our students are both college and career ready. So whichever path they choose, they'll be able to have a successful future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and for your wonderful minutes. I want to introduce our communications team and also our elections chair. We are half on Zoom and half here in person. Let me just fix this. Our election chair is Corinne Sia. And our communications team, awesome, is a set of 3 people. Liz Kane in the background, she's on Zoom right now. And here with us is Amani Sanati and Nelson Tam. So maybe we can spotlight Corinne, can say a word, and I'm not sure if Liz wishes to spotlight herself, but then Amani and Nelson can come up too.
Hi, good evening, all esteemed, incredible speakers and guests. It's been a great joy listening to you here on Zoom. I wasn't able to be in person this time. And I wanted to say just a little note that I work in the field of mental health with children of neurodiverse disabilities, or if you want to call them strengths, it depends on how you see them. And we are concerned in the neurodiverse community, and also the children and young adults that are with intellectual disabilities, the concern that our caregivers are suffering. They're not having enough of a support from our state budget, that we were expected to have an increase for the people that give direct care in the homes for our special needs children. So this is just something in my heart and mind. And as we get more information, I will would like to share that with you. Thank you for allowing me time, Chair Sarah.
Sure, thank you. And from San Diego, we have Denise and Nelson. And maybe Liz will spotlight herself. And Amanise has a special guest here too.
Yes, I will bring him up. I have Leo, our pug, joining us. I'm Amani Sanati, she, her. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, happy to help with the media team, and we have our partner Nelson here.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Nelson Tam, and I am a first-time delegate in Assembly District 18, representing Oakland, Alameda, and Emeryville. I'm actually not your typical Children's Caucus activist. I am a Wall Street industry survivor, and so right now it's a very critical point, right? Because a lot of the school districts are very strapped financially. And, right now there is an emphasis on, equitable operating efficacy, right? So, that's in the mix right now. Also, one thing as a new party activist, trying to centralize information is pretty imperative. So just watch out for what our team is about to do. Before the November election, we're going to create we're developing a new website to try to centralize information of all of the great work of our caucuses.
And hi, everyone. I'm not
I
sure.
think the only thing I can add to it is that, yes, I came into getting involved with the Children's Caucus by means of the school boards, which everybody's paying attention to. And I know Project 2025 is I hope something people have heard about now, because there's something for everyone in there. And if we're not paying attention to it now, Google it, look it up, and do everything you can to ensure we don't elect Trump again, because there's a lot that's already happening and a lot that will come. So I feel like I should be involved in every caucus because they all matter at this point, and we're going to be here today to do what we can to help this caucus. So thank you so much.
Liz, do you want to say something?
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm Liz Kane. I'm not sure if you can see me in the San Diego world, but I'm here on Zoom.
We've got you.
Okay, I'm on the back house side of this great meeting. And thanks so much. I'm also involved. I'm an educator and involved in the Children's Caucus, really to advocate for kids, as I like to say, diapers to diplomas. So, just really thinking about how we support our youth all the way to success. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much. And one of the things we have in mind, as Nelson was talking about a new website or something to sort of centralize and highlight, another thing we talked about is trying to facilitate communities' interaction and exchange of information as to what's going on at these school boards, and try and sort of send out and build an alert network where people will know what's happening one community over and can call for aid, mutual aid. I think Nelson's thinking of setting up a Slack channel. We're going to try and do that. I mean, we'll see what we can build and what people will come. It's kind of hard to get participation, but if that seems like something that would be useful, let's do it. Other things that we have on the horizon, we've had a couple of conversations with statewide legislative leaders. Our first one was with our Attorney General, Rob Bonta, talking about how children's issues and how we protect their rights. And then with State Superintendent Thurmond, talking about issues of DEI and diversity and how this is maintained in our schools. And I hope we will continue this. Perhaps the Lieutenant Governor, who we heard from earlier, I know that Senator Representative Barbara Lee had an interest in doing this too. She's certainly been our champion at the federal level for children's issues for decades. And some others are. So I hope you'll stay tuned to these meetings in the future. And at this point, we can turn this over to a open mic. If there are any candidates here who want to introduce measures or issues of interest, please come on up. It's kind of late in the evening, so we're
I have one other thing to say.
okay.
So yes, just about what's gonna happen after that Prop 1 test, it will, we're seeing mental health services cuts, and we're seeing cuts to things like First Five. And so that will be coming as counties figure out how to deal with the implications of Prop 1. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Anyone else? Rima, do you want to come up? And if anyone else here, you can get ready to come on up and this is introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Rima Nashibi. I'm chair of the Arab American Caucus here, but I'm also founder and president of a nonprofit to end harmful practices against women and girls, such as child marriage, human trafficking, and other forms of gender-based violence. So we had two bills that we were very interested in that affect children. One is AB Assembly Bill 2924, Kari Petrie Norris, which wanted to end child marriage under 18, no exceptions, because as you know, people don't think that child marriage is legal in the US. It's still legal in 38 states. And in 4 states, including California, there's 0 minimum age. All what you need in California is parental consent and judicial approval. However, it's the 3rd attempt to end child marriage in California, and it was pulled by the author before the meeting date because they wanted to change the text of the bill, unfortunately. Senator Jerry Hill tried with SB 273 in 2017. Freshman Senator Aisha Wahab tried with SB 404 last year. And now this year, AB 2924, and it appears legislators are not interested in protecting the children. The other one is Senate Bill 1414 by Senator Shannon Grove, which is basically solicitations of minors. It's a misdemeanor if someone tries to buy a child for sex, and Senator Shannon Grove is trying to make it a felony. And so there was some opposition and change of text in the Senate Public Safety Committee. I just heard that it passed the Senate Appropriations Committee, but we're not sure of the text. Some of the senators on the public safety have pulled out the excluded 16 and 17 from protection, which is not correct. They're still minors, so they should have been there. So they excluded them. And so when it passed now, the Appropriations Committee, we don't know which text they ended up with. So we are waiting to hear with that. I don't understand how somebody can really sleep well when they're saying, no, we don't want to protect the kids. It's okay for people to buy them for sex. And I hope that will change. This is my update for this caucus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in fact, if you look on our website, we have newsletters that we've sent around that has a list of the legislation that Children's Caucus has supported, as well as the synergy here. And also there's something that we might be able to do a program on in the future. So, and we have another to welcome to the podium. Thank you.
Thanks so much. My name is Ariel Kelly, and I'm a member of the Children's Caucus and on the Eboard. I am sharing information about a ballot initiative that has qualified for the November ballot in Sonoma County. So I'm from Sonoma County, which is in the north part of the San Francisco Bay Area. And the ballot initiative is called Our Kids, Our Future. It is a 1/4-cent sales tax initiative that will be on this November's ballot. And when passed, it will generate over $33 million a year, every year, for children in Sonoma County. And it will be funding that will flow through First Five, because as many of you know, the funding for First Five across the state tobacco tax is declining dramatically. So the funds would go to support early childhood education, pay for expanding our early early educator teacher pipeline to have more teachers being trained in early childhood education. It will provide teacher stipends for those facilitators who are not making a livable wage. And then also a lot of work on the healthcare side. So ensuring that children who are victims of abuse, trauma, and neglect, children who are living precariously housed or homeless, that there will be funding for services to help support those youth and their families. So we really need help. Fortunately, because we did a signature gathering initiative, we just need 50% plus one to pass, which we feel pretty good about. Unfortunately, with the California Business Roundtable measure on the November ballot, if it doesn't get pulled, if we don't get 2/3, it'll be problematic and it could potentially not end up passing. So for folks, obviously, I know not a lot of people live in our neck of the woods up in Sonoma County, but we're going to be doing phone banking. We're going to be door knocking. We are trying to get the word out and really just raise awareness because we really need this ballot initiative to pass for kids in our community. We're working with a number of other counties like San Francisco and Alameda who have gone before us and passed these tax measures to fund early childhood education and children's health initiatives. So we are part of a group of folks who have gone before us. But for anyone who is inclined to help us on the campaign front or to donate to our campaign so that we can do mailers and other things, that's coming up in short order. So it's called Our Kids, Our Future, and it's ourkidssonoma.com or .org to check out more about it. But you'll be hearing more about it. We would love your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we will include some information about that if you'd like to get it to us in our next newsletter. Is there anyone else who would like to introduce themselves, talk about a campaign or a ballot measure, initiatives of interest to the caucus?
Alfred.
I think we have some DNC candidates coming. Come on over here.
All right. Good evening, Democrats. My name is Alfred Tu, running for DNC to build trust, transparency, and strengthen communications between our state and national party. And also, of course, to bring our party together to fight for our children, because when you think about what the other party is doing, they're really going after our kids, whether it's the racism, the anti-trans legislation that we all need to push back on. It's really about the kids because the kids are the future. And this is where this has become so personal for me, just thinking about growing up where I was one of the few Asian Americans in the town I was in and having to deal with that as a young person. And now, of course, seeing this Republican attack on trans youth. These are issues that are personal to me, and I promise you I will fight back so hard against the other side and fight the elect Democrats, because for me, this is a personal issue. Again, Alfred Tu, running for DNC. I'm also on the board of the AAPI Caucus and the California Democratic Renters Council. So please support the Justice for Renters Act as well and come to our hospitality suite after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, everyone. My name is Harini Krishnan, and I'm running for the DNC. This caucus is very dear to me. I have two daughters, 25 and 23-year-old daughters, who will actually be here in the morning whipping up votes, wearing this beautiful, colorful T-shirt. Oh, sorry. And I am doing the work that I do. I'm an organizer because I want to leave this world a better place for them. And I'm really scared for them as young women, the future that they're facing. So I'm determined to fight on their behalf. And that's why I'm here. I'm also, before I got into political organizing, I was proud to work in the public education space for a number of years. And I was proud to receive the Hillsborough School Citizen of the Year Award in my town of Hillsborough for the work that I did, as president for 6 years of a public education foundation for my daughter's school district. So What do? I'm a national Asian American organizer, and I've traveled to 26 states in the last 5 years to build Black and Brown coalitions with Black and Brown groups on the ground. And I'm running to urge the DNC to invest in communities of color, to invest in language voter outreach, disaggregated data around the year field organizing, because that's how you're going to turn out the Democratic vote. I was proud. I have knocked on so many doors for school board candidates, including for Maliha Williamson right here in Riverside County when she was running in Marietta. And I know what school board candidates are up against right now, especially now. And I am willing to fight. I will organize, I will fight regardless of whether I win or not, but I hope you will elect me because no Asian American woman has been elected from California to the DNC in 15 years. And I hope you will change that. Thank you so much.
Right on time.
Good evening, Democrats. You guys are the hardworking ones because it's this late and you're still here. All right, my name is Otto Lee. I'm going to be serving my third term if I got reelected onto the DNC, and truly it's been an honor. I am an immigrant from Hong Kong. I'm a veteran, 28 years Navy retired. Actually retired across the bay of the USS Midway after 20 years in the Supply Corps. And also father of 3 teenage daughters. So bless me, right? 13, 16, and 19. But seriously, as a veteran, one thing I've learned that really disgusts me is the fact that Trump says that our fallen soldiers are losers and suckers. I take strong offense to that, and we want to make sure that this is something that every veteran, every service member, and every American needs to know that this guy does not belong anywhere near to be the commander-in-chief of somebody that he thinks is losers and suckers. More importantly, I would say that the MAGA stuff that we're seeing is very scary. Project 2025, you haven't heard of it, look it up. This is the plan that what they're going to plan to do day one when Trump is in office. And this is why I make sure that after my retirement, I'll fight every tooth and nail to make sure that that will never, ever happen to our country. And really, when we say saving our democracy, this is not hyperbole. This is what we're dealing with. So I just want to say thank you so much for everything you do, because unless we got the right Congress, the Senate, we're not going to get legislation passed like universal pre-K, something that, right? This is exactly what we need, because it's not just education. This is also childcare for the kids, and that allow the parents, the mom, to actually work. So these are some basic human rights that our country don't provide, and we have those in Western Europe all along. So it's long overdue. The Inflation Reduction Act was great, but that was one piece that actually got missed at the end. We need to fight for it next time we're in the right Congress. Thank you very much.
A question here.
It's not a question, it's a comment.
Okay.
Our resolution to end child marriage under 18 that we've been passing in states.
We also a resolution to end child marriage under 18, no exceptions, that we've been passing in cities and counties. And with Supervisor Lee's leadership, Santa Clara County is the first county in California to pass that resolution. So thank you for all the work that you do. We've passed it in 16 out of the 34 cities in Orange County, in 2 cities in LA County, and we have 37 pending.
I think we have someone in the chat too.
Thank you. And I think we want to hear from Holly Cuthbertson. Let me try and light you. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Sounds great. Hi, everybody. Hi, my name is Holly Cuthbertson, and I live in Roseville, California. I'm a mom. I'm active parent volunteer in my daughter's school district, and I'm running for Roseville City School District Board of Education. I work at a food bank. I spend most of my time taking care of people all day long. And I have a daughter that's in middle school now. I just have one daughter, and she doesn't need me as much. And the parent teacher club doesn't need me as much. So I decided to take this opportunity to run for school board in my district. It's an interesting place, interesting position that we're in right now in our district. We have everybody on the board is conservative, 3 are reasonable people, and we're just one flip away from having things all go to heck in a handbasket. So that is why I'm running. I'm working hard. I'm trying to bring it home here because there are 11,000 students in my district and 20 schools. And I just don't want to see it. I just don't want to see it all fall apart because in neighboring communities, it's happening. And, we're just very close to having it happen. I trust our librarians. I trust our teachers. I trust our principals. I trust our leadership. They make wonderful decisions for our kids and they have the best interest at heart. And I don't want anybody to come in and destroy that. So that is why I'm running. I have a website. It's holly4rcsd.com. I'll put it in the chat too. I just really care about our schools and I really care about our kids. And I don't want that trend that we're seeing to continue. And if I can, get myself in the chair to prevent it from happening, that's what I'm going to do. So appreciate the time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Were there any questions for Holly from anyone here or any others for the open mic online? Raise your hand if there's anyone. Well, no. Okay. I think we've come to the end of our evening. It looks like Matthew has something to say.
Let's make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, well, before we make the motion to adjourn, I think we should adjourn in memory of Delaine Eastin. Does anyone have any others they'd wish to add to our memorial? Ray Cordova. Any others? All right, well, a moment of silence and appreciation, and then I think we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
You guys have a wonderful evening.
Yes.